But the first 4 rounds to me are just crucial. And so I'm really interested to hear how you would recommend we approach the first 4 rounds of our draft. So go to it.
Yeah, I absolutely love to leave both of my in the first 4 rounds. I love to leave with two running backs and two receivers. When I look at it, you hear all these theories: zero running back, zero wide receiver, whatever. I don't look at it that way. I just want to get two running backs, two receivers in whatever order you end up taking them, because I do feel there's a huge drop off at both positions when you get to about running back 18, 19, 20. You got to have some good tiered rankings. That's what I make sure I do, tier rankings. You look at that for my tiers. It's about the top 3 tiers of running backs. I want two of those guys, and then the top 4 tiers of receivers. I want two of those guys, and there's about 20 to 25 receivers in that. If you extend the tier, I cut it off at 20 myself, especially with this Josh Gordon news. Who knows how that's going to go? We'll talk about that in a second. LaShawn McCoy, we'll talk about him in a little bit too. So that makes the tiers even a little bit more questionable. But again, about 18 running backs and about, let's say, 20 receivers. I want to have two of both positions. So my first 4 rounds, I'm trying to lock those down because, again, those are the multiple positions. Those are the ones where you're starting at least two of the running backs, if not three, because you have a flex, and then three wide receivers. You really need to make those early round where the floors are a lot higher on your players. You really got to make sure that you're taking a multiple position there, and just securing yourself a top tier guy. You could go running back, then receiver, Melvin Gordon and Dalvin Cook, and then you go Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, or maybe you go wide receiver, DeAndre Hopkins and Mike Thomas, but then you go Jay Ajayi and Christian McCaffrey. Whatever order you decide to do it in, maybe you balance it out. I actually like the kind of balanced approach. Leonard Fournette, Mike Thomas, and then Jay Ajayi and Juju. Whatever it is, the way you order it doesn't matter to me. You just got to make sure you come out with two wide receivers and two running backs by the time you're at pick 5, I would say.
I got to tell you, that DeAndre Hopkins, Mike Thomas hypothetically you just threw out there got me excited.
Yeah, I saw your face.
But I do have
change of underwear.
I do have a question. No. I never wear underwear for the show.
Okay.
Anyway, I do have one question to ask, which is, how do you factor in a game-changing tight end? I got Gronk as my second pick in a 2-keeper league. I'm definitely going to hang on to him. I mean, the other guy that was an option was McCoy. Obviously, you would keep Gronk over McCoy, right?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I come in with DeAndre Hopkins, Gronk. I mean, you can't feel bad about that, right?
No, not at all. I think that's actually a very interesting wrench, and I've seen Gronk falling to round 3 even at times, and I take him every single time. If he's there in round 3 and you don't take Gronk, you're just an idiot. I have him at pick 20, so I would take him towards the tail end of round 2. Those you saw what it did if you won your championship last year. When you have that edge.
Oh, man. It's a huge edge. I was not a believer. I took him almost because I had to. He was clearly the best person available. But, I mean, it's undeniable the edge that I had on people with this guy. I mean, he's a points machine.
Absolutely. I mean, you're thinking about that. That's almost like a wide receiver 1 when you make that selection.
Yeah.
And the only thing that does is, we talked about taking those stabs. You're trying to form a lineup of, 8 or so people. You need to get those multiple positions balanced out and take as many shots at those as you can. But when you got a floor and a ceiling as high as Gronk at a position where there's so much uncertainty, it is a huge edge if you are able to hit those later round stabs. So, I mean, when you do something like that, you just got to see what position did I sacrifice for. If I'm going to take a Gronk, I want to make sure I get at least one receiver and one running back to kind of balance it out with those first 3 picks rather than going running back, tight end. I mean, then you're probably looking at – I've done that before for a guy picking at 2. We ended up doing Le'Veon Bell, Jordan Howard, and Gronk, and I mean, that was – a great start. Our receivers were Larry Fitzgerald and Juju. So then you're looking, though, you don't have a guy that you truly love at the top of your wide receiver core, but Gronk makes up for that because you're looking at him as your wide receiver 1. The rest of that draft, though, you're now taking as many stabs at wide receiver as you can versus taking too many running back stabs because you got to feel better about Jordan Howard and Le'Veon Bell than you do whatever your receivers are. So I think you can mix those guys in, especially Gronk. Obviously, the only other 2 you might consider are Kelsey and Zach Ertz, 2 huge edge-gaining guys.
I wouldn't consider either one of them. Gronk's the only guy I would consider in the first 2 rounds.
and he has the bigger the more consistency of the track record with Tom Brady. There are some more questions whether Pat Mahomes and Kelsey will gel. What will Sammy Watkins do to his production? Zach Ertz, was he a one-hit wonder? Who knows? I actually like to lean and find those guys where Ertz was going last year. I was huge on Ertz's value. Those are the tight ends I like the Kyle Rudolph this year, or the late round stabs. You got George Kittle, you got Austin Seferian Jenkins, Vance McDonald, even later in the draft. It's almost like quarterback in a way because it's a one starter position that you can get by with taking no tight ends until the last few rounds and then just taking a bunch of stabs. Obviously, quarterback, you have the higher floors, though there's much more track record of those guys panning out. So I don't love, most of the often I am taking running backs, receivers, first 4 picks, locking those in, 2 of each. If a Gronk falls to me at the right price, beyond pick 20, of course I can't pass up on that. So it's a good point. You just view him as a tight end 1, and then whatever position you sacrifice the depth, load up on and give yourself those stabs.